Rusty, thank you for taking the time to go through these really relevant points. Now, Dennis has literally been hounded to death during this dreadful episode. So just to start off with, how long have you known Dennis, and how long have you known about the veterans being hounded and legally pursued?
I've known Dennis for 5 or 6 years. I've met him a long time ago, but actually I've been very close to him over the last 5 or 6 years at different meetings, rallies, met him in person, supported him at the court cases. So I know him fairly well.
And how long, just in terms of the broader, because obviously it wasn't just Dennis, there's a lot of other guys being legally pursued. How long have you known about that that issue? You know, how from sort of where was your start point there with that?
Way before I met Dennis, because Dennis has been the case, if you like, the forefront up the front there, and they picked on one person, and that's the example they've made of him. And of course, when you hear the stories, what's going around as you travel and meet up and talk, you understand that there are many more, or sounds like many more, in the wings just waiting.
Yeah.
However, he was the scapegoat.
Yeah, well, I think that they made it so because when they revealed his identity in court against what they'd already agreed, so there was a huge amount of lying going on right from the start. So he'd got no choice but to expose it. So I think he spent all of these years, along with a lot of other people, putting a lot of time and effort into that exposure. So just in terms of the start point, what was the initial point where and who started that that approach to Dennis? How did it begin?
Well, from what I gather and what I've known about and speaking to people, it was obviously the MOD in the very beginning, and obviously the historical inquiry teams, HET, if you want to call it that. So, as far as I'm aware, that's where it all started. And, even though it's gone on and on and on, and Dennis has been cleared a number of times, they still want to bring him back, in my opinion, to appease.
Yeah. So the rot started literally from the MOD's internal legal department, the historic evaluation team, is it? Inquiry team?
Inquiry team, yeah. Historical inquiry team.
Yeah. That's exactly what he said to me as well. So there seems to be a lot of, I mean, I've got this from another legal firm that are heavily involved with pursuing the MOD on behalf of veterans, that they saw a lot of structure and resources being put into that, and they were quite alarmed by it. That was their reaction from private lawyers. So let's just talk quickly about what Dennis's views on this were, his overarching views, and what his wishes were to that he was making very clear, and I believe to you, about what he wanted to happen carrying on.
Well, every time I've spoke to Dennis, sometimes in a group of people, sometimes on my own. And the fact is that Dennis has always said he never wanted an amnesty. Yep. Never, ever, ever wanted an amnesty. And he also said that he wanted a day in court, yet again, having been there before, to prove once again what an upstanding guy this fellow was. Yep. And he did get his day, but unfortunately, he never saw it out in the end. Yep. Because he passed away. So that's what he wanted to do. And he also told me that, and I knew anyway, that it's all political.
Yep.
Okay, it's all political. And, it's gone through successive governments from Tony Blair right the way through, and we're still following down the same tracks. Promises, 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 false promises.
I think that's a key bit there, Rusty, that it started, all of this, the source and causation is Blair, and it is that Boris and May and Cameron have just followed along with this. There's been no real change, and we can talk about that subsequent, but just from your understanding and general sort of awareness, how many more cases are there waiting in the wings?
They don't come clean on it, as you well know.
Yeah.
Because all they do is tell lies. So I would say somewhere between 230 and 270. Now, their figures I've spoken to, and Dennis has more or less confirmed them when we've spoken, when we've met.
Yeah.
And I think there's still that amount of bodies there waiting in the wings.
That's the figures that he's mentioned to me as well. So I think that there's a, I mean, to think that we're going to have to go through this potentially, unless we pull it up, another 270 times or maybe more. So there's a lot of guys out there that are waiting for their doors to be knocked, I would think. It's just horrific. So, but obviously, what units does that include? Where's the range of those cases? Where does that go? It's gone from paras, lifeguards. Where else do these pursuits go?
Well, I would say that most units, they seem to pick on one or two units in particular with more cases. But as I say, they're not made very clear. So I would broad brush it and say most units that have been to Northern Ireland would probably have some involvement over the years, because it's a long period of time. And of course, it's not made public, but you can bet your life that there'd be a number of units, not just one, that will be being investigated.
Yeah. Well, I've had guys out of special forces say that they are being pursued as well.
Yeah, so have I. And the fact is that if they are, it'll come to light somewhere. But until it comes to light, then we're in the dark, because even though we have got individuals that have been questioned in the past, I would say, really, if anybody is ever pursued by any of these so-called money-making lawyers, etc., forget it. Don't even answer the question. Do not contact them. Do not respond. Just let them go away.
Yeah.
And if we always remember what we said when I was serving, part of your resistance to interrogation, I cannot answer that question. That's it.
Yeah. Do not cooperate. This is exactly, Rusty, what General Lord Dannatt was saying.
Right.
He's saying, that was when we discussed this, and he's helped greatly with a lot of the press coverage and exposure with Dennis and with the other cases. That's, when we went through this, that was his advice. If you're approached in any shape or form, no matter what that approach is, do not cooperate.
Yep. Do not engage. Do not engage.
Yeah. Because the fact of the matter is, they lied to Dennis, and they continue to lie to him all the way through this process. So I think that's probably where we want to just draw this episode to a conclusion. We will be following it up with subsequent episodes. Rusty, thank you.